I'm looking at the UK Council by-elections for the 14th of August 2025, last Thursday, and there was two last week, and the Greens won both of them, I think from Labour in both cases, and it's interesting because, well, I was asking Grok this week, usually I ask Gemini, but both of them aren't very good at the latest up-to-date. Probably because it's very difficult for them to find info on the internet, because councils aren't really that up to date with this sort of thing, democratic election results and stuff. It will be somewhere probably, but they're not really that fussed. I think one of Restore Britain's policies, and that's Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain organisation, is they're always asking councils and the government about data, and they're finding, it's just a mess. Sometimes they don't even know, the government don't even know or whatever. So that's hopefully that'll trickle down to how people are following these council by-elections, because they're very important. They're basically polls of what's going on with how people are thinking at the moment. As Harriet Harman would tell you, she used to say that. She was talking about Labour and Tory. I think she'll be absolutely horrified how it's going now, because it's going Reform and Green basically. So in this case, they both went to the Greens, but did they go to the Greens for the right reasons? That's what I wondered. Did they go to the Greens for green reasons, or were they a protest vote? Were they a proxy party for a protest vote? So one of them was Grangetown, which seems to be in Cardiff, right in central Cardiff. Apparently, even though it's not got a uni there, it's a high, it's a very diverse area. A lot of students there and also others. So it's very, very diverse. I think it's the most diverse area in Wales, maybe. And it's very urban, and the Greens have just taken it from Labour. It was quite hard to find info here. I had to ask the expert version of Grok, which took about 4 minutes or something to come up with this answer, but it's pretty good for what I've seen. So yeah, Grangetown in Cardiff. Green Party gained from Labour. So what was the turnout? Let's see. Turnout was 27%, which is a bit high, quite high for a council by-election. I think people are starting to take more of an interest in council by-elections now. They should. In my opinion, I think there's only one issue people should be voting on, and at the moment you should be voting Reform as a protest vote, because they're the only party to vote for on it. Even though they're very tame on it, I would prefer to vote Advance UK, but they've not got anyone standing yet. I mean, I don't think they're even a party yet at the moment. They're waiting to get 30,000 subscribers or whatever, members, which is fair enough, But at the moment, I would say vote Reform. People say Reform are not good enough on it. Forget that. It's just an Overton window at the moment. It's just a shift. Overton window, protest vote, and you've got to, what's the word for it? Yeah, got to use it as a referendum, really, even though Reform are timid on it, on the actual issue. That's the way I see it anyway. So if you feel the same, especially if you traditionally vote Labour, Lib Dem, Greens, etc., yeah, it's time to switch. If you look at the Pink Ladies, they're giving you a message. I'm sure they've switched from Labour to Reform now, or some of them might be Tory, but all of them have gone to Reform probably. It does look as if Reform's going that way anyway. But somebody, apparently in Newcastle, was the other place, somebody said there, a politician, maybe it was a councillor or something, said that the centre ground's collapsing. People are either voting Reform or Green, and that's the way it looks like to me. And you've got Jeremy Corbyn's party coming up, your party, which I think is quite a good name actually. I would probably just stick with that. I know it's just a holding name for them, but yeah. So anyway, Grangetown, Cardiff. Yeah, the Greens win. It's a very multi place, very diverse. So we don't know for what reason whether they voting Greens there. Probably a lot of students were voting for mainly traditional green issues, but possibly the other issues as well. Whereas they might have got more from as a protest vote, might have from one group as a protest vote against Labour. So, yeah, the Greens won it. 24% they got. And that's from zero apparently. So, I'm guessing they didn't stand the last time. Although some say the last time it was 5.5%. So, I don't know what's going on there. Grok and Gemini struggle at the moment with council by-election results. Probably because they're not getting very good info online. From council site, websites and the likes. So let's see. Plaid Cymru, they get 18.7%. They're down 9.6%. So they've done quite well there. And usually, Labour 22.7%. They're down 31%. So Labour were dominant there. Reform UK 14.5%. They're up 14.5%. So they probably never stood there before. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the maximum they could get in that area. Apparently it's around about 55% traditional Welsh there, so that's probably just going to go down. Propel, I don't know about this. 9.6%. I'll need to look this one up. That's up 6.3%. I need to check that. Independent. I think that's someone with a name I can't pronounce. 4.6%. I think it's a businessman who probably has an affection for Somalia. Apparently it's quite a big Somalian area of Wales. The highest probably, I think. 4.6% you got. 156 votes. Tories, 139 votes. They're down 5.1%. They get 4.1%. Lib Dems, 63 votes, 1.8%. Turnout, 27%. This was triggered by the resignation of a Labour councillor. I'll tell you more about it later. South Jesmond and Newcastle, I think this is another inner city area. Again, the Greens won from Labour. The Greens get 36% of the vote, up 15%. Lib Dems, they get 33%, so they nearly won it. They're up 7.3%. Labour are down 25%, they're at 16.8%. Reform are at 10.9%, they're new, so they get 173 votes. The Tories, 45 votes, down 5.7%. Someone was wondering if that's the lowest the Tories have got for, years, especially in mainland Britain or whatever, in a council election. 45 votes. 27%, that's down 9% from the last time apparently. This was triggered by the resignation of a Labour councillor amid internal party issues. I don't know. So these results continue a trend of Labour losses in urban areas, with the Green Party making gains in both cases and Reform UK showing notable vote shares as a new entrant. No other principal there wasn't any more that week, I don't think. There was parish level ones. There was one in Barrow. Yeah, that took place earlier in the month. Apparently Mark Pack keeps a scorecard, so I'll need to check that out. Maybe he's on X or something. Yeah, that's what I've found as well. The best place to follow is like Britain Elects and Alliance of Liberal Democrat Councillors website. They keep no one really does it really good though, in my opinion. Because personally, I think the thing we're all wanting to know is there a demographic change of one particular thing, and is this what's causing the thing? Because I think what's going to happen in the old days, you got, and I'm talking about even a month ago or something, not even a year ago, say, or maybe 2 years ago, you were getting independent councillors who were a sort of protest vote on a local issue, like a car park or something, something to do with the local area. But now I think you're going to get it to do with diversification, basically. I think that's going to be what a lot of it's going to go towards the national trend. Not always, but I think we're also going to have a situation now where you get the Greens as a proxy protest vote, but you're going to get, I think you're going to get independent candidates now that might not feel inclusive to everyone. You're going to get Corbyn's party, which is supposed to be inclusive to everyone, but you're going to get independents that are not really meant to be inclusive to everyone locally, or it feels that way, like Blackburn and Bradford, places like that. That's going to go all over the inner cities, I would imagine, because while they might not be able to get MPs, they can get local councillors. We've seen that in London with the Aspire Party, a lovely positive Anglo-sounding word, but they all seem to be of one background, and they all used to be former Labour councillors, most of them, or a lot of them. It was a whole Labour area, but Labour get totally wiped out in that area. They were really replaced by Aspire councillors and Aspire mayor. And I think that's the way a lot of the country's going to go. It's the opposite of what Labour, the Greens are suggesting, and it's what some people suggested would happen. But the Greens and Labour are still saying, no, we're going to be inclusive parties, are going to take over, left inclusive parties. I'm not too sure about looking at Aspire in London and the likes. So I asked the reasons for the Greens winning Grangetown, Cardiff. Has this got a voice thing in it? I don't think it has. Yeah. A combination of growing local support, effective campaigning, I don't know about that really. Voted dissatisfaction for Labour, that's more like it. Declining Labour support and voter disillusionment. Labour's vote share plummeted from 56% in 2022 local elections and 48% in an April 24 by-election. So April 24, that was before the general election last year, but they were still holding up there, 48%. And a year later, they're down to 23% in this contest. Voters expressed feeling let down by Labour, seeking a fresh political choice that prioritises fairness, sustainability and community needs over status quo. So we don't know if it's to do with one group doing a protest vote on something happening in the Middle East, and I've got total sympathy for what's happening but I'm voting for my UK, how the UK is going to go, so I'm only voting on one issue really, and I'm going for reform or advance UK on it, even though they're too soft. Overton window shift. So yeah, this reflects broader slippage in Labour's stronghold in South Wales, with the Greens positioning themselves as a positive alternative for change. Yeah, because apparently reform, there's going to be Senate votes at the Welsh Parliament next year. Reform are predicted to get the most. They're around about 29% in the polling at the moment, which is no surprise to me, really. But Plaid Cymru is apparently doing well there, 26%. I don't know why. Labour have dropped to like 21%. I don't know. Anyway, I think the Greens might do pretty well. But nationally in Wales, I think they're doing as well as that. So strong Green campaign and local momentum. I don't know about that in my opinion. It's saying the local candidate hard work resonated in the diverse Grangetown area. I'm really not sure it's about that. I think it's more likely a protest vote on one issue. So apparently Grangetown is 54% white, 24% Asian. Shouldn't use the term Asian because there's so many. I think it's an insult to the group. 11% black, even that you could say, but well, okay, you could say that's African per 21, or sub-Sahara. So it's 11% black. That's a 21 census, so that's before the Boris waves. So I'd imagine that 54% might be under 50% now, because Boris waves were the biggest ever changes ever, like 3 years in a row. So unlike previous elections where Greens and Plaid Cymru ran jointly under a common ground ticket, I didn't know that, competing separately this time, alright, so that's why Plaid Cymru done so well the last time. Allowed the Greens to capitalise on their surge. So the Greens took over the Plaid Cymru really on the vote, with high profile support from figures like the two of the Greens MPs, who apparently, according to Election Maps UK, would lose their seats to Reform, going by a trend in a poll today. Low turnout and fragmented opposition. Turnout of only 26%, but that's typical for council by-elections. I mean, council by-elections, it should be e-voting. They should be on a Saturday and Sunday, but if it was e-voting, it wouldn't really matter if you kept it Thursday, because on a Thursday, workers are working, and only a few people are interested enough to even vote. I think this time they've probably get a lot of young people to vote, or as a protest, you know, they've managed to get the young, because apparently it's a very young area, it's very multi, so they've managed to get a protest vote going. The election saw votes split among multiple parties, including, as I say, I think there was a local Somali businessman who stood last time and this time. He's got 153 votes or something, so I don't know what he's standing for, but maybe, you know, each viewer's got to come up with their own idea of who would have voted for him, if in particular a group would vote for him. So he's got quite a few. This fragmentation, combined with Labour's internal reflections on a loss, helped the Greens edge out a narrow 44 vote win. Yeah, was it the Lib Dems that nearly won the seat, was it? Let me see again. Yeah, the Lib Dems nearly won it. I mean, the Greens were 36%, Lib Dems were 33%. Where's Plaid Cymru? I need to do that again. Yeah. So, strong Green campaign. The Greens had finished second in the last 3 elections in the ward, building momentum towards a breakthrough. So does that mean the Plaid Cymru stood down the last 2 times? I don't know. So, there's no direct evidence links the result to specific issues like the conflict, and I would call it something different that's happening there, but I don't know about that. Despite the word's diversity, though historical Labour losses in diverse areas have sometimes been influenced by such national debates, they wouldn't boost Greens' confidence for the 2026 Senate elections, potentially targeting the Caerdydd Penarth constituency. Yeah, I think they'll probably win it actually if that continues. So the other place was South Jesmond and Newcastle. And where did that march start from the 1920s? Was it, I don't know, did it begin with a B? But I'm thinking South Jesmond, but Newcastle upon Tyne. I'm guessing this is a real city centre area. And the Greens win it again from Labour. It's their 3rd seat on Newcastle City Council, stemmed from a dramatic collapse in Labour's vote and effective local positioning by the Greens. This turned a traditional Labour safe word into a competitive 3-way race. Labour's vote collapse and internal external pressures. Labour's share fell sharply from 42% in May 24, so that was just over a year ago, just before the general election, to 16.8% amid local council turmoil. I mean, that's what, 26% have lost or something, including the loss of 2 leaders in 3 years, 1 deselected, 1 resigned, and 6 councillors forming an independent group. I need to know more about them. I think they're actually leftists, inclusive leftists. Nationally, declining poll ratings for the Labour government contributed to a loss of faith. The by-election was triggered by the resignation of Labour councillor Milo Barnett, part of broader instability, though specific personal reasons for his departure weren't detailed in reports. Local issues and campaign focus. Key grievances including the controversial implementation and withdrawal of a low-traffic neighbourhood in Jesmond, which alienated residents, as well as everyday concerns like the state of back lane bins. Well, that's interesting because I said that sometimes I don't think it will be local issues anymore, but this one they're saying it's a low traffic neighbourhood thing. It seems like they didn't like it, the locals, and it's been withdrawn. And this is ironic because I see the low traffic neighbourhood or the low speed 15 mile an hour limit as sort of symbolic of Labour being woke out of control. And although I think the issue people should be voting is another issue, I think this is sort of connected to it in a way because it's symbolic, because it's a very symbolic way of seeing how that the Labour councils are out of control, you know. Because 15 mile an hour is very hard to go at. You know, have you ever tried? I would imagine motorbikes would stall at 15 mile an hour. Really, it's really hard. And what I find is that there's a place between Fort William and Mallaig where you need to go 20 mile an hour. And any time I've went through it, I've had a big massive queue behind me. And I'm guessing most of them are locals, you know, because it's just so hard to stay at 20 mile an hour. So to put it down at 15, that Welsh leader's away now. I think that was a sort of symbolic thing. And the Greens are probably more in favour of this, ironically. The Green candidate, Dr Sarah Peters, a 27-year-old intensive care doctor, highlighted his positioning the Greens as a hopeful alternative for change. So what was she highlighting? Is she going to bring them back or what? The Greens vote rose 15% to 36.4, narrowly beating the Lib Dems, up 7.3 to 33%. So the Lib Dems nearly won it. Timing and demographics. Held in August with a 30% turnout. That's quite high, I think, really. The vote occurred when many uni students, often Labour supporters, were away. Nah. I think they would be Green this time. Potentially shifting dynamics towards local residents who leaned Lib Dem or Green. Reform UK's 10.9% debut. That may be as high as they can get there. I'm guessing they can get a bit higher, but not much. Debut and Conservatives dropped to 2.5%, further fragmented the right, aiding the left of centre split. The result signals potential Greens gains in the May 26 local elections, where all seats are up amid Newcastle's evolving politics. Labour currently have 37 seats, Lib Dems 22, Greens 3, others 16. No sources tie the outcome directly to issues like that place. And I'm just not saying that for YouTube, basically. And so I asked about the demographics. So for Greenstown, 2021 census figures, like I say, these are totally out of date because there's been 3 Boris waves or something. They've been the biggest changes ever. You're talking about 1.5 million gross came to the UK. Most of them not from the EU. So these are totally out of date, these 21 census. So for Greenstown, Cardiff, 21, it was, say, 21k residents. It's quite a young area. It's younger, I think. I think it's around about 33, 34, because it's a diverse inner city character. And the ethnicity, this is a big one, really, isn't it? Well, 2011, that's way out of date. So back then it was 56% white. So that's way out of date. I would guess that's now white British they're talking about. I guess that's like 40% now or something. Maybe 10% other way, you know. Back then that made the white 62%. And then the rest are quite a big Indian, Pakistani, African, and 20% from other ethnic groups. So really that is very, very mixed. I think it's the most mixed ward in Wales. And it's the future of the country, I would say. With non-white populations rising. Religion, and well, I would say the locals or long-term locals are going to no religion, so they're up to 42%. That was 32% in 2011. Now it's 43% in 2021. That's what I would put as well. declines in Christianity and increases in other faiths. It hosts multiple places of worship. So I think really strong religion is going to become very big in that area. Ironically, while the long-term locals go to no religion, that's what's going to happen across the country, I think. So apparently one faith is about 3.7% citywide, but we don't know if that's 2011 or 2021, but that's probably a lot bigger now. Here we go. Language, 10% speak Welsh, up from 8.9% in 2011. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, I wouldn't trust that really. But English proficiency, I think that's a better judge, is lower than average, around about 5%, reporting poor English in 2011. So that's back then, so it's changed greatly since then. I don't know what that would be now, 10% or something, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's quite a poor area. It ranks among Cardiff's more deprived areas. And population, it's growing. If it's growing, that means one thing really. It grew 7.3% from 2011 to 21. This reflects urban growth and another reason. Ethnicity shows ongoing diversification. Citywide, up to 2011, minorities increased by 31,800, with dispersal from clustered areas like Grangetown, though some groups grew faster in such wards. By 21, non-UK born residents in Cardiff rose to 16.5%. So that's quite a lot for Cardiff. Are they changing? Yes, Grangetown's demographics are evolving. Diversity, cultural shifts, younger, diverse residents. Yeah. And now on to Newcastle upon Tyne. I think people would be quite surprised at the change in Newcastle. I'm not saying that's good or bad. Well, to think of it as good, actually, utopia. But it's changed a lot, you know. I think a lot of people, if they get an image of a Newcastle person, they're actually, you could say they're being thingy, because it's changed greatly, and they're not reflecting that change in their image. So 21 census figures for South Jesmond, population 9.7k residents, density 5.9 people per kilometre squared, average age is 32, with a median around 23 for students, and maybe it's a high student area. Age structure highly youthful, about 47%. About 47% are full-time students, and there you go, so it's a student area. Median age is 35, citywide. Ethnicity, 2011 baseline shows 75% born in England, so 25% not. Significant international presence, 3.8% China, 3.5% Northern Ireland, this is 2011. 3.3% Scotland, 1% Hong Kong. City trends indicate Newcastle is white, 80%, down from 85.5%. I think this is in 2021. Yeah, it is. And it's down from 85% in 2011. So it's saying in Newcastle is 80%, the way you would traditionally think of it. So it's a big change around. And that's 2021. We've had the 3 Boris waves since then. We didn't have 2021 because COVID, basically, so there was almost zero, ironically. Although we probably had the Ukrainians coming. It was 2022. Asians around about 11.4%. 2021, that'll be up again since then, with the Boris waves. Black 3.3%. South Jesmond student population drives diversity with 25% born outside England. We don't know how many of them end up becoming British, hanging around for 5 years or whatever. Religion, 60% no religion. I would say that's good to see. 34% Christian. So that's really high, that no religion, isn't it? And here we go, the other 2.3% of that. 0.8 Hindu. This is 2021, is it? 0.4. 0.6, etc., etc. Language, 90% English as main language, so there you go, 10% not English as the main language. Other top languages, 4% Chinese. Education, well, a lot of them are students, etc. So it doesn't really. Changes from 2011. Population declined, 10%. Whereas Newcastle's grown 7%. Same as like Glasgow and these places, they've grown for one reason, especially because our councils make them safe, very safe places, sanctuaries. It's become very diverse, but because it's got international students, but we don't know how many of them end up becoming British, etc. South Jesmond's demographics are shifting. So that's it really. Okay, that's all on this. There's about 7 elections coming up tomorrow, Thursday, 21st of August, I think it is. So it should be interesting. There's one in Scotland. I think Reform are going to do well. A lot of them are sort of Labour areas, a few Tory areas. I think the Tory areas will probably go to Reform. Probably a lot of the Labour areas as well. Okay, I think it's going to be good. Bye for now.